click the link down below on Patreon, or I'll put the link up here in the corner to Patreon, so you can go there and become a patron supporter.
Get mantra and meditation MP3s at JasonGallant.ca.
Today I'm going to speak to you about flow. And I'm sitting here at a boat launch because there's so much wind, so much force, so much energy moving. I mean, there are people in the background moving to and from the beach, and there's a lot of stuff going on. So there is something called flow. Flow is always happening. There's a lot of flow inside of you. And suffering comes from the resistance to this flow. The flow is your power. There's a lot of power in flow. When you work in alignment with flow, there's so much energy behind everything that you do. But if you work against flow, like trying to canoe upriver, it seems like no matter what you do, nothing works out. But this isn't as much about doing as it is about realizing a state of being. Because there's so much flow that is going on inside you, even in this moment. Even if your awareness hasn't developed to the place where you are aware of what is flowing inside you right now. Flow comes in many forms. Sometimes flow comes in the form of thoughts. Sometimes flow comes in the form of emotions or feelings. And it may also come in the form of physical sensations. But it isn't in micromanaging these sensations where your freedom comes from. It's about realizing who you are amidst all of these sensations. Not through a thought, but through a state of being with. Realizing that you are not any of these energies, they're just things the flow is carrying with them. That's a way to describe it. It's like watching a river. Sometimes there's cattle in the river, sometimes there's fish, sometimes there's a broken boat, sometimes there's rocks, there's sand, sometimes there's leaves on top of the river, but the flow continues. And no matter what you do, the flow still takes care of this debris when you stop damming it up. That's really my point. You don't have to dam up the flow just because it doesn't meet your preferences. If you wait long enough, no matter what that flow is carrying, it will just wash away. Something new will come. So it is in this way that when you are just with the flow and allow the flow, that everything takes care of itself within. There's no need to micromanage the little tidbits that are in the flow. I mean, that's the whole point of a sewer system, right? It just washes things away. You don't want to stop the sewer system from washing all the debris, right? So in that way, the flow is constantly cleansing you. It's constantly freeing you of all this debris. Your only job, you only have one job, as the saying goes, you only had one job, is just to surrender to that flow and allow it to take place. Which is why meditation is about doing nothing. Your spiritual journey and your meditation is about those moments where you stop meddling. The mind always wants to meddle. It wants to reject, it wants to resist, it wants to judge, it wants to orient all experiences into what it wishes to experience. But when the mind expands, the natural experience is freedom and bliss. But most never stop meddling long enough to experience that. And then they say it doesn't exist, or I can't do that, or that's impossible. The defense mechanisms of the mind, that's what these are. The mind wants to protect itself. The mind, the ego, it wants to say, I am in power. I do not want to surrender to something greater than I, even if I'm miserable doing it. And when the ego is done with this game, when the ego finally increases in enough wisdom to realize that it can never win the happiness game, and it is forced to surrender, that's when your freedom and your birthright of freedom comes to you, because you surrender to the flow. You stop meddling. You just say, it all is what it is. And I'm not resisting, I'm not rejecting, I'm not flinching away from this reality of things and the infinite that are moving through me. It all is, and it's all okay. And I choose to be in relationship regardless. When you accept the flow, don't be surprised if you start to have more passion in your life. Don't be surprised if you start to have moments of inspiration. And this inspiration is a sign that the flow is moving in a certain way within. That you have allowed that debris to move through, and now this force is moving with you. You become more and more aligned. You and the flow become the same thing. Strange coincidences start to happen. You start to end up in the right place at the right time, and you don't know why. Welcome to the flow. So I hope this helps you on your spiritual journey. Take care for now.